Oh, just all right. I will start with the introduction. Welcome, Crystal. Thank you so much for being here. So Crystal Keene lives in beautiful Palmetto, Florida. She is super passionate about fitness, nutrition, and wellness. When she's not working, she enjoys taking walks in the sunshine, boating, riding around the neighborhood on her golf cart, eating at local restaurants, or sitting by the pool. That sounds very lovely. Crystal started her career in retail management and made her way into the financial industry, where she discovered her passion for working with business owners. She was a branch manager for Chase Bank prior to starting her career at Coastal Capital, and is now the Women in Business representative for her company. Her mission is to help bridge the gap in financial literacy for business owners and help them capitalize on future business opportunities. So thank you, Crystal, so much for being here. I appreciate you sharing your wisdom with all of us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I just appreciate Coralie inviting me to talk with you guys. I had the opportunity to chat with her for like an hour a couple of months ago, and just discovered that her passion to help other people was just as big as mine. And I'm so excited to be here with you guys. We love, as a company, supporting other women in business. We're a women-owned finance company. We're like to say we're kind of like small, locally owned. So Courtney and her husband started the company in 2009. Well, actually, technically, it was just Courtney for a long time, and then Chris came on as our president of sales. So we've been in the industry for a very long time. We opened our brick and mortar location, like our office that I go into every day, in Sarasota, Florida, about a year and a half ago. And there's 3 of us that actually work directly with the business owners and the vendors who sell equipment, any type of equipment. So, we facilitate the transactions. We get to know the business owners, see how we can help them, see how we can educate them. And then, like when it comes to like equipment finance, we pay our vendors directly and build relationships with them. So we can get our clients better pricing and things like that. So I know Coralie told you that I am in the US. And so everything that I'm going to talk about, like when it comes to, I'm not going to get really specific into like taxes or anything like that, but I will refer to a couple of different like tax benefits. And I don't know if they're going to apply to you guys in Canada. So I just wanted to put that out there. So what we strive to do at Coastal Capital is help business owners learn what type of financing is out there for them at any stage in their business, and how to apply and how to get funding properly. So we have conversations with business owners all the time, whether they're just starting up, maybe they haven't even registered their business yet, and they're just kind of getting the ball rolling, thinking about what it is that they're going to do. And they're in the stage of like, just trying to figure out where they're going to get capital from to purchase the equipment that they need, or have capital for marketing or things like that. And we kind of help guide them along that process. But we also work with business owners that have been in business for a very, very long time. Some things to keep in mind when it comes to being new, like a new business under 2 years old, is your personal credit worthiness. So some things that we look at internally, it's like credit depth, how much time our prospective client has in the industry, what market research they've done, do they understand the cost of materials and inventory, and do they have some skin in the game? Like, we really look to see that our clients have some reserves for opportunity costs in the future, and to make sure that they can obviously, repay the loan. So when we talk about financing, we're a very logical lender, but we're also a story time lender. So if the story makes sense and our client has time in the industry, they've got money in the bank, but they're a startup where the banks will typically say, no, I can't help you. That's where we come in and say, tell me the story, tell me why this makes sense, and let us help you get the equipment that you need to start your business. So we fundamentally believe in keeping your capital in your pocket for future opportunity costs. There comes a time in your business where you're ready to grow. And what a lot of business owners do is they fund everything internally. They use all of their own capital. They use their personal credit to fund purchases. And then they get to a point where one or two things might happen. One, they might be completely debt free, like they might have paid cash for everything. And the other client, a lot of which I've been talking to recently, they funded everything internally. They've taken on personal credit card debt. They've taken out maybe a loan on a vehicle that they're using for their business. And there's two problems. One, they're not establishing any business credit or worthiness for the business specifically. And two, they are leveraging their personal credit. And when you do that, and it comes time to buy a house or buy a car or do something where you need to utilize your personal credit, you're kind of tapped out. And then there's the other side of things where, you might not be getting all of the tax advantages as you deserve. So at the end of the year, when your accountant does your taxes, you might be paying more than you should have when you finance that piece of equipment or whatever it is under the personal credit. So that is why we really encourage business owners not to commingle their credit, their business and personal credit, and really make sure they understand the difference. I'll give you an example. So Courtney actually was a business owner prior to Coastal Capital. So prior to 2009, she opened a boutique in California, and she purchased everything with her own funds. Well, I think we just mentioned fires earlier. She had a ton of inventory. She used all of her money to purchase that inventory. She had a super cute store. She paid for everything, including the marketing, with her own cash and with proceeds from the business. And one summer, there was a forest fire. Everything in her store, because she was a boutique, she sold clothing, was ruined. All of her inventory completely ruined. What do you think that did to her business at that point in time? How long do you think like an insurance claim takes to like cover all of that? Like a significantly long time. She had to decide, like, I have to go take out money from the bank to cover this. Well, she went to the bank. The bank can't help her. She's been in business, a few years, but she never established any business credit. And she also tapped out her personal credit buying inventory for the store. So she had to make a really hard decision and close her doors. So we're very passionate about teaching people to build business credit early on. It doesn't even matter if it's like something big or small. I tell people, like, if you can buy, sorry, my dog is asking to get in. If you can buy like a small piece of equipment, even a used piece of equipment, or you can take out, some working capital to fuel a future project, or future accounts receivable, you can at least start establishing some history under the business credit. That way, when you hit year 2, the banks will look at you and they'll be like, wow, they've been in business 2 years. They've already started to establish some business credit. This person has been paying on time and they are worthy of us providing a loan, right? So with that, with all of the different types of financing out there, obviously there's interest, and a lot of people are afraid of taking out a loan because there's interest, there's a bigger payback. What a lot of people don't realize, or sometimes if they're not working with the right accountant or the right CPA, they're not realizing all of the tax advantages that comes with paying interest on a loan. You can write off in the US a certain percentage of interest paid on a loan throughout the entire term. There's also Section 179 in the US. If you purchase a piece of equipment, whether it's a vehicle, whether it's a piece of machinery for the business that is used more than 50% for the business, you can actually write off the full equipment cost in the first year to reduce your tax liabilities at the end of the year. And then there's different there's other different types of financing. Lease agreements are very, very popular. So the type of lease agreements that Coastal Capital does are ones where at the end of the lease, you either owe $1 or $101, depending on where you live, what state you live in. Or we do a lease where your lease might be for 36 months, and then you're making 36 payments total. 33 of those payments would be lease payments, and then you have a 3-payment buyout, which you could do monthly the same way, but it's the same payment, they don't balloon. So leases are much different than they used to be. But if you have a good CPA, leases can be written off in full on your taxes, again, reducing the tax liability at the end of the year. So Courtney taught me this saying, and I absolutely love it. So we like to say you wouldn't pay an employee before they start working for you, right? So why pay cash for a depreciating asset before it's starting to work for you? So a lot of people will buy a piece of equipment in cash, and that equipment, as soon as you purchase that, as soon as you take it off the lot from wherever you bought it from, it usually depreciates 30%. When you have a loan on that equipment, you can write off the depreciation, and you have some of those other tax benefits that I was talking about. And you understand that over time, that asset is going to generate you additional revenue. I would say, it's okay to start small. I'm sure you guys have equipment, vehicles, things that you've had to purchase for the business to operate. I think a lot of people they think they need something extravagant, or they go into the dealership and the dealer offers them 0% for 24 months or something crazy like that. Like, we all know that it's not feasible to pay that off in 24 months, but the dealership knows that they make all their money back. So if they have to repo it, they get their equipment back plus all of your payments, plus everything else. And they mark it up to account for that 0% interest. So there's also some buying power that comes into, doing your financing outside of the dealership, knowing what you're walking in with, and being able to walk in with financing and be like you're paying cash because they don't know the difference. Have any of you guys kind of dabbled in like capital investments or looked into like a venture capitalist for your business? Show of hands. Anybody? You have? Gloria? Okay. Awesome. Does anybody know what it means to use venture capitalist money or capital investment? No. So typically what we see is that when there's an ask for money, we're gonna give our business plan, right? Probably a 5-year business plan. And in return for loaning this money, there's typically 1 or 2 things. You have a certain payback to the person lending, the private lender lending you the money, or you are giving up a portion of equity of your company. We just so you guys know, we don't do any type of private lending like that. We do lend our own funds. We are a super broker, but we're not a venture capitalist because we don't believe in giving any equity away. We try to help people with other options. But that's just one question I get all the time, so I wanted to put that out there. So yeah, there's a lot of different types of lending in the US. Business owners have SBA. There's a lot of advantages. There's disadvantages to starting a business with SBA. One of the advantages is you have a really great business plan. You may be able to get funds to start a business that you didn't have, and a really nice long repayment plan. But a disadvantage is you have to basically, they file a blanket lien on all of your assets, even your personal assets, your home, everything. And so they're really in control. And once you go to purchase or sell anything in the business, you have to file an addendum and get approval from the SBA and things like that. So what the type of lending that we do at Coastal Capital primarily is equipment finance and leasing. So typical equipment finance agreements, typical lease agreements with buyouts at the end. So they're not inflated buyouts at the end or anything. They're just typically a payment or two. The max buyout at the end is 10%. So there's that part of it, our business. We do a lot of equipment finance. And then we also do working capital. Not sure if you guys are familiar with working capital, but it's basically like getting your future accounts receivable ahead of time. So a lot of our customers will use that to fuel future projects that they have going on, contracts that they have outstanding, things like that. And then we also do lines of credit. We also are an SBA advocate. I had a client that I was just working with. We did some equipment finance for him, but then we also did an SBA Express, and that's something that we can do really quickly as well. So those are primarily the things that we do. However, I like to be very resourceful. So if you guys ever need anything else, like any other referrals for any other type of lending, I have people kind of in my back pocket, if you are in the US, of people that might be able to help you, whether it's for business acquisition, or maybe you're looking to purchase a piece of land, or you need a construction loan or something like that. We can do those things, but we're not the best at it. So we'll always refer you to the person who is the expert in that. So yeah, that's my spiel. I know that it was a lot of information, but wanted to just kind of give you guys a general idea of what business financing is, what business lending is, kind of what we're here to do. We're here to be a listening ear. We're here to help you make the right choice or get with the right person or resource to help you make the decision. But at the end of the day, it's who you know. And like Coralie is a great person to be working with. Obviously, like she knows how to build a very successful business. But just make sure you're using your resources. Make sure you have a really great like CPA or accountant that is specifically works with people in the construction industry, because they're going to be able to really advise you when it comes to the business financing piece as well, what's going to be best for your business. But yeah, I would say, it's better to start small. It's better to start with a small piece of debt and go from there. Like, it doesn't have to be big. Just start building some history, start moving that away from doing everything under your personal and move it under the business and build that history, so that when your 2-year mark hits, you can go to your bank that you build a relationship with and they can say, wow, like it makes sense to lend you money. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys might have, any follow-up questions.
I have some questions.
Yeah, go for it.
So what would you recommend for, well, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
To start off, like with a credit card, would it be good to just start with a credit card and start making purchases back and forth and building a line of credit in that way? Similarly with a bank, I understand buying equipment, but is there a way to leverage a loan or line of credit to build up my bonding capacity?
Yes. Well, are you in the US or Canada?
I'm in the US.
Okay, cool. So part one to your question, business credit cards are tricky. So as a branch manager for Chase Bank, Chase credit cards do report to business. They don't report to personal. But if you're thinking of credit, kind of business credit, just like you're thinking about personal credit, when you go to get a mortgage, the lender is going to look to see that you have different types of debt, that you have a mortgage, or you've had a mortgage that you made payments on, that you have a revolving line of credit, that you have a credit card. So diversify. A business credit card is a great place to start. Chase reports to Duns and Bradstreet.
Okay.
We report to PayNet. So PayNet is, those are your two biggest ones in the US. And so I would say diversify. Your bank probably won't be able to give you a line of credit till you hit 2 years in business. same with us. We have to kind of wait until that 2-year mark. What we can do for businesses under 2 years is like the equipment finance, and it could be anything. I mean, any equipment that you use for the business, even if
Trucks
it's
and trailers and things like that.
yeah.
Okay.
Like for example, I did $100,000 in audio and video equipment for a videographer that
Okay.
has a podcasting studio. So that's equipment to us. It's a soft good. It doesn't have to be a titled item. So yeah, it could be something like that. And then, so did that answer your first question?
Yes, and specifically because I appreciate that you said DUNS, because if I go federal contracts, they always ask for a DUNS number, so they're wanting to see my credit. So,
Yeah, and they want to see that you're established. Did you register your business on there?
yes, yeah.
Perfect. Yep, you're doing all the right things. So, yep, that's great. If anyone else is in the US, anyone that watches this later, make sure you register your business on there if you haven't already. And then part two, so with credit cards, you have to be careful though. There are some business credit cards that report to your personal credit.
Oh,
So just do your research. Capital One is one of those. And so American Express reports to business only if you have a business credit card. So just be really careful and do your research. Ask me if you need a recommendation. But Chase is really great. Honestly, they have great rewards. That's what I have. And then part two, you were asking about just like an equipment finance or a line of credit. Kind of, will you ask your question one more time?
okay,
Sorry.
yeah, so to be specific, I guess. So right now, my current bonding capacity is $500,000.
Mhm.
But if I'm wanting to go after jobs that are $1 million to $5 million, I
Yeah.
can't bond them. I can get strategic about how I break up the bonding, or can I find a way to bond it?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So two things. I was just talking to someone in insurance here in Florida, and the other part of their business are the bond piece. So he was talking about how they have a lender that will do those bonds. And then he's like, but I think that's where you come in too, right? Because their interest is really high. So depending on the revenue that you're bringing in currently, we might be able to do working capital for you,
Okay.
which is very common. People use working capital to purchase the bonds to start the job. And those are typically, I mean, for that amount, typically a 1-year repayment period. It could even be, less. So we could definitely have a conversation about what that might look like for you. But we look at your bank statements to see, how much revenue you have coming in.
Okay.
So yes, definitely possible. And we could definitely look into that for you.
Will you be just sharing your contact information so that we can set up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I think she put it in the chat.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Any other questions?
I guess for me, I'm in Canada, so I'm not sure how much I can weigh in here or not, but my vehicle was totaled on July 4th. I have been given a payout offer of $5,000 yesterday, and I have to give my rental back tomorrow. So I'm going to be out of a company vehicle in 1 day. And I am just overwhelmed with all sorts of stuff right now. Lots going on. I have an install booked for the next 2 days. So the equipment should arrive on site. So that should buffer that. But now I'm looking at what to do for a vehicle. And like you're saying, everything's on my personal card right now. My company card is under my personal name and everything else. And even if I were to finance a new vehicle, it'd be under my personal credit because they're saying, well, the company has no credit score. So I guess my question is like, how can I start getting some of that credit going so I can get, maybe if I can get a vehicle for $5,000, maybe now, like if I can just take that payout and just get a junker, but maybe in a few months, if I could maybe get credit, built up, like maybe I could get something small so I could get a company vehicle under their name and credit score. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it totally
Yeah,
makes sense.
wondering how to kind of transition to all of this. And
Yeah,
I've also had 4 credit checks pulled on my personal card in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, girl. Okay. So first of all, I'm very sorry that all of that is going on. And yeah, I imagine you're very stressed out right now. Yeah, so I personally am working on actually finding a Canadian lender specifically for Coralie. We have been working, we have been working on this for a while to find a lender. I'm wondering if you have a dealership, like, do you want to buy private party or from the dealership?
Well, see, the problem is, I don't know if you other ladies, maybe someone has some advice. I asked this in the ladies group yesterday. All these trucks I'm test driving, only my toes reach the gas pedal and it hurts my knees within a 5-minute test drive. So the vehicle my company needs is one that my body can't handle. But then when I'm driving a smaller vehicle like a car or SUV or even like a Jeep truck I have for the rental, half of my foot hits the gas pedal and then I have no problem. But with the ones that only my toes reach, I end up lifting my heel off the bottom of like the floor of the truck. And then I'm holding my whole leg weight I'm supporting my whole leg weight with my knee and flexing with my ankle. So I don't know about buying new because it seems so risky to get a new vehicle and then not be able to drive it because my knee hurts.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I see there's some comments here too.
I would say if you can buy something private party with the cash that you're going to get, I don't know what $5,000 can buy you in Canada. I know
Like nothing.
here right now that would be extremely tough.
Yeah.
So in Canada, if you guys have a dealership maybe that sells used vehicles and you can try some that work for you, ask them if they have a business lender like us, because they usually will. Just say, hey, I want to finance this under my business. And then you could use that $5,000 as a down payment. But make sure it's something comfortable for you. Otherwise, I would say maybe just continue to rent, and your rental should be, I mean, I don't know about Canadian taxes, but potentially a write-off at the end of the year for you as a rental.
Yeah, the rental's $101 a day plus 12% tax. So that's just not affordable.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's where I would start. I would call some of the dealerships that maybe have something in your price point and say, hey, do you offer commercial financing?
Okay.
And that will give you the opportunity to have that and ask them to say, is this going to show up under my personal credit? And then I understand you've had a lot of like credit pulls and stuff lately. One thing I didn't mention about what we do is we don't do any hard credit pulls, just so you guys know, not unless you're doing like more than 250,000. But even then, sometimes we don't have to. So that is a something that's important to us. And just realize that when you do go straight to the dealership and you they're offering commercial financing or personal financing, typically their in-house finance center will shoot your information out to a lot of different lenders that will do a hard pull on credit. So just ask them that question. Like when you call and ask, hey, do you do commercial vehicle loans? They say yes. Just ask them, can you send me to the one lender, maybe one lender, don't send me to all of them, that they think will be best suited for you. I wish I had a contact to share with you. I'm working on it. But it's rough because we don't have, like, our credit system is different, like all of that stuff is different. So we are in talks with a company that we work with in the US, and then they have a sister like location in Canada. So they just have limitations as to like the size of deal that they will take. I hope that was somewhat helpful.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. I saw a question come up.
Well, Gloria was just saying in the thing that she doesn't have a company vehicle, that she just has a corporate account with budget rental. What do you mean by other rebates to buy on Amazon and Southwest?
Yeah, so Budget has a program for small business owners, particularly those, I guess, in like fleets and trades. And so you can set up a corporate account. They don't really ask for any information other than like a business name and like proof of having the business, so whatever. And the more you rent, they give you like rebates. So like if I spend $500 on a rental because I needed a box truck to do a delivery, or pick up some lumber or whatever, like gym equipment, we move gym equipment all the time. So if we rent a larger truck and we spend a lot of money, then we might get like an $80 Amazon gift card put on our Amazon business account, because of whatever program they have with them. Same thing with the miles. Like I just flew to Houston, and my next rental was covered here in New York because of the mileage and also whatever I spent there. So it kind of works a little bit like a credit card without you having a credit card with points. And we're in New York. The reason we don't have a company vehicle is because commercial vehicle parking in New York is a flipping nightmare. And so I worked out with my previous accountant that it was better for us to rent and hire drivers like Uber drivers, or, use public transportation, which we use a lot of. I have been looking into purchasing a company vehicle for us, because we're starting to self-perform more work up north. So, now looking at expenses from last year, I'm like, oh my God, we spent way too much on rentals. But, if you're in a pinch for the next month or two, I think maybe just sorting something out with a local rental company. There's also like Turo, and things like that. I have a background, and we're all women here, so I have an unfortunate background with domestic violence and stalking. My personal credit is like shit. And COVID, my score went from like 700 and something, like down to the 500s. I mean, it's in the trash. And so, full transparency, like I pay everything in cash for the business as well as for in person, because I wanted to clean up everything that's going on with that and the credit and everything. But I also at the same time did set up cash accounts and stuff with certain vendors and suppliers. So I do pay everything on time, and I don't have any debt whatsoever. So we're coming up on 2 years with like our Chase Bank business bank account this August coming up, like literally in a couple weeks.
That's really good advice. That's
Okay.
awesome. Was that helpful, Kirsten? I
Yeah.
think I think it's a great idea, the rental. for a
Yeah,
little-
yeah, and see, like, I mean, if we can get them discounted right now at $101 a day plus 12% tax, it doesn't make more sense. Like we found one vehicle locally, just a minivan for $3,800 with 150,000 kilometers. So depending on if it's like working or if they're just selling it like not functionable, some people do. We're saying like that's basically the equivalent of like a month's rental. So then we'd be cheaper off to buy like that minivan for a month, sell it in a month, and then figure out what we want to do. So we're kind of like looking at that, but basically in our local area, there's nothing. I have to go 4 hours away to a city, and then I have to take multiple days off work for that. Like, so it's, yeah, it's a complicated thing with that kind of rental. The U-Haul, maybe curious. I know they charge per kilometer. So being in a small community, we don't do many kilometers, so that might not be that expensive. I think it's like $25 a day plus kilometer. So
That's a good idea.
yeah, so that could be a better option.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then, Gloria, to just kind of piggyback off of what you said. So Chase, as you know, like their lending standards are crazy. Like if you don't have great credit, if you have a late payments, they won't discourage you from applying because they can't, because of the laws. I think, do you have a banking background as well, Gloria? Yeah. Okay. So you know. So
Yeah,
where
I worked for Lloyd's Bank on the commercial side. So yeah, I did a lot of underwriting of buildings. I gotcha.
Okay, cool. So one thing that I didn't even kind of mention, so like I said, we're a story time lender. We have clients that have good time in business, 2 years, you're gonna be like pretty dang good. I'm sure the revenue that you have coming in, your company, I mean, from how you talked about your company, you probably are doing absolutely amazing. So when we look at a deal, we're a logical lender, we're like, does it make sense to lend to this person? So even if your credit's in the shit and there's a good story, right, of why that happened, I can write that to make sense. I can write that to be logical, where the banks will say, not logical at all. Like the bank is funny. They're like, if you have an 800 credit score, no matter how much revenue you bring in, even if you're negative, like we'll lend you money, no problem. We're very logical. We'll just be like, okay, this person, yeah, their credit might be tougher, but their bank accounts, they have reserves, they have assets, they have all of this. It makes sense to lend them money. And that's how we're going to be able to start establishing some business credit, because as your business grows, lenders don't give a shit about your personal credit. They really don't. They're going to start looking at your business credit. But the problem for you is if you don't have any established, they don't have anything to look at. They only have the story that your credit report tells. So when you want to expand your business, keep that cash in your pocket for opportunity. There's going to be a time, there's going to be a project, there's going to be something that you want to invest in, and you're going to be like, I wish I had that cash. I wish I had that to invest in this, and now I can't get a loan. So just keep that in mind. And
We're there. Yeah, we're kind of there right now. To be honest, I just applied for a grant, and one of the terms said bootstrapping. Like they asked how we were funding our business, and I was like, "Yep, that's us. That's us. We're totally bootstrapping it." You know, and I did put in some of my own personal money to start the business, of course. And so I have a 3 to 5 year plan that I put together. And Coralie, of course, helped me put this together because she's amazing. I was a part of a program here in Harlem, in New York. And so in order to receive our grant, we had to provide a growth plan. And, you know, as part of a venture capital type, like Shark Tank type presentation that I also had to do for another group, I also had to put together this presentation. So I do know that year over year, our business and even the projections year over year are very sexy to investors, maybe not so much for the bankers. So we're really waiting for that like 2 year mark, and for my last year tax returns extension, which I filed and should be done in the next couple of weeks, to really come out so I can give this story, like you said, because you're right. There are a lot of lenders out there, and maybe private venture capital, whatever, that are going to look at what I've done in the past, and they're not really, I mean, they might care what happened in the 2 year period, but I understand that we can create a presentation, if you will. And I'm sharing this because I think that a lot of the girls here underutilize Coralie. So, you know, just her helping put together that pitch deck for us for that 3 to 5 year plan and the growth was very, very helpful. And Myra's question about bonding is one that I had as well. You know, so I'm wondering if like a line of credit for being able to get bonded, you know, would be the option, because there's projects we just turn them down. It's not that we don't want them. We know we're not going to be able to meet the qualifications for them.
Yeah. Again, like how long are those projects going to take?
Oh, some of them are over a year. So like I've gone to Chase with LOIs and they're just like, sorry, can't help. Yeah. And we use Chase. We use Chase. Our project management software is tied to Chase. Anyway, I've been with Chase for over 10 years. It's very frustrating. So yeah.
So that's why I left. I was saying no more than I was saying yes, right? And so Chase is amazing for banking, for credit cards, for products, for software, absolutely amazing. Plus the employees are pretty dang amazing too. But when it comes to loan products, one of the most conservative banks you'll ever deal with. And there's so many lending laws and things like that. So yeah, they're gonna look at you sideways. So again, depending on how much that is going to be, a working capital note might make sense. It can be a conversation that we can have. Very set terms, like these are your payments, this is your repayment term, and this is how much you're gonna pay in the end. It's very cut and dry, but instead of passing up on that project, you're actually able to take it and make money. So it just, it depends on, you know, if you want to have a conversation about that, what that might look like and what we would actually ask you for to determine if you would be eligible. Honestly, a lot of the companies that we use don't even, what was I saying? Oh, some of them don't even look at your credit. They care more about what your bank account looks like. And if you have money in the bank, that is what matters. You have revenue coming in. Sometimes they won't even look at the personal credit. So that's one thing to note. Another thing about our lending, just so you know, that's a little bit different than the bank. When the bank extends you a line of credit, they blanket lien everything under your business. You want to make any moves, you want to sell something, you want to buy something, anything you do, you have to go back to the bank. It's a complete blanket lien. We don't file blanket liens whatsoever unless we use SBA because it's a government-backed program, like we don't have a choice. But any other product that we do that is unsecured, or if it's a secured asset, we're not going to blanket lien. Sometimes we don't even have to do a UCC filing. So UCC filing is where the lender reports that you took out debt and then you get 500,000 phone calls from people wanting to give you money. So for, I know because I call some of those people and they don't want to talk to me. Yeah, we have the ability to not even report the UCC sometimes, depending on if you qualify for the program. But again, it's a good way to start building some business credit without actually having to, you know, buy an asset. But maybe it's just fueling your future contracts. And that's something else we can look at too, is what you have upcoming.
Great. Thanks so much for answering the question. And I apologize for the long-winded answer. And LOI, guys, is letter of interest. I'm so sorry. She got me in my banking slang. I apologize.
Anyone else have any questions? Then come to mind.
Do you have any recommendations on how to just books or podcasts or just more information? Like I actually am acquainted with quite a few people that bank and am trying to establish relationships with multiple banks because they all serve different purposes. But do you have recommendations, since you're in that world, of how to just get more educated about this process in general on the business side to understand how to leverage it, especially because in construction, it's big bucks, right? And one job can tie up all your bonding. How do we get smarter about leveraging this stuff? Or like right now, I know a lot about personal credit, and now that's the only way I can relate like business credit. But is it the same? Is there ways to hack it or leverage it in a different way that we're just not used to because we think very personal or like old school finances?
There's no secret sauce. Just separate and start with something. Because if you don't start now, if you don't start yesterday, you're just putting yourself back more and more and more. I mean, time is our biggest expense. You just want to start as soon as you can. And I know you talked about like building relationships with different banks. From my knowledge in the financial industry, and Gloria, you might say something different. A bank wants to see that you have your entire relationship with them. They don't really want to see your money, a few dollars here, a few dollars here, a few dollars here. So I think a lot of people have this mindset of like, I'll establish a bank account with like multiple different banks. I'll keep some money in there. I'll start a relationship. They don't really care. They still want full financials from you. They still want to see that you can guarantee the loan. And you have to remember the pros and cons of the type of lending that we do and the type of lending that they do. You have to realize if you take out a line of credit with one bank, the other bank isn't going to take second or third position on your lien. Gloria's shaking her head. So if Chase
That's
blanket,
even with construction loans though,
Yeah.
because we're all in construction. And so if you're working on a large project, like you just said, I'm dealing with that right now. TD Bank does not want second position on a loan from, even if TD is providing the SBA lending. So very, and we call these retail banks, at least here in New York in construction, versus dealing with somebody like you guys, which is private. So very tricky because like you said, everybody wants first position on the loan and all of your assets and everything.
yeah. So people have to understand the cost of money too, right? Like we're not blanket leaning your assets. The bank is like, it's so hard to get out of that. And we will do second and third position. Just so you guys know, but when you're involved in SBA, the problem is with them and then you taking out new debt, like they just control everything. So just there's pros and cons to everything. It's just educating yourself and having the right conversations and talking to the right people about like, what does that look for your business? And is that the right decision at this time based on what you are planning for a year from now or 2 years from now or whatever. And I think Gloria is probably a great resource for you as well, since she's had experience with that herself. But yeah, my recommendation would not be to spread it out. Create a long-term relationship with a bank that you really like doing business with. Because the great thing about banking is because most banks are relationship banks, if the more money you have in their bank, I don't want to say the better employee you get to work with, but the higher caliber, more experienced in your industry banker that you get to work with. Like at Chase, if you are doing more than $1 million in revenue, you're working with a special banker that takes care of your accounts, and the banking relationship so much easier because you can call them and be like, hey, can you do this and this for me? Where if you call the branch, they wouldn't be able to do that for you. So that's the power of a relationship. And then they can also be more one-on-one with you and give you a different information and advice, kind of low key, even though they're not supposed to, on, maybe next steps. So I'll tell you guys, like, because I was a branch manager with Chase, everything that Chase can't do, they send it to me. So anyone that maybe has great revenue, low credit, they send it to me. Someone who just acquired a business, they paid cash for it. They bought it from someone else that had it for 20 years. They sent them to me because that person needs all new vehicles. They need to update things. So I work directly with the banks to help clients. We help clients become bankable. We help them build relationships with the bank. So I don't want you to think that we're trying to take business away, because there's a time and a place for bank lending. We just want to make sure you qualify for it and that you understand what you're doing.
Yeah, I guess when it's establishing different relationships with banks, from my point of view, it's understanding that different banks do different things. Like I have some real estate and then the construction company. And then I was trying to buy a business, and the one bank I wanted to work with wouldn't do all those things, right? They're not comfortable with all those things. So I had to have almost different relationships and different things for each branch of what I was doing.
Gotcha. That totally makes sense. And like, there are some banks that do SBA business acquisition, that will just help you with that too. And you don't necessarily have to have a deposit relationship with them. I know someone here in Florida that does that specifically. But in every state, they're gonna have, I mean, that being whatever states that they sit in, they have somebody that works with clients in their area. So if there's ever a question and you need a resource, I can always see if I can help.
And yeah, do you have any like books or anything that you recommend that can just help us along, or that you think from these questions? bring about?
Yeah, so everything that honestly, a lot of things that I've learned have been from Courtney directly. So Courtney is our CEO.
Mhm.
She does a lot of public speaking, and she's doing a lot of like interviews, you know, with different like morning shows and things like that. So I would say if you're not following Courtney Murray on social media, I can actually send you, if you text me, I can send you her page where you can just kind of follow some of the things that she's been doing. She's great about talking about the differences. She's been doing it for so long. I know everything I know from Courtney, and then all of the experience I have in the traditional corporate banking world. So
Thank you. Yeah.
yeah, and then I really like, I just follow Coralie.
I was just gonna say, I just found this podcast. It's called The Lean Zone. And it looks like they're based out of Florida, but one of their episodes that I see here is called 3 Simple Ways to, just let me find it again. It's on February 16th. They don't have their episodes numbered, but maybe I can just share this one with you. 3 easy ways to increase your bonding capacity. So they have a bunch of things on liens. Well, their name of their podcast is The Lean Zone Podcast: Construction Law, Contracts, Liens, Bonds, and Collections.
Nice. Okay.
The liens. Will you say it one more time?
It's called The Lean Zone.
Is it on Spotify?
I'm looking at it on Apple, but I'm sure it's on Spotify as well.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. I just did a quick search on, that's what the sort of the best looking one that came up. There's one called the Construction Lending Podcast, but it has 2 episodes, so you could probably zip through that one quickly if it's useful. I don't know.
Yeah, and we're doing our own show. So that'll be coming soon. We're gonna finish this book and then move on from there. One thing at a time. We have big goals. Oh, what I know, Coralie, you follow Danelle Delgado quite
Yeah.
closely. I would also, that's another one, if you guys aren't following her on social and stuff, and LinkedIn, she's great. Her whole team's great. They're actually coaching us for a year. We signed a 1-year contract with them. Danelle helps with like personal branding and things like that. So she's working with Courtney as well, like on her public speaking and things like that. But I really like her outlook about just doing everything with joy, having gratitude in everything that you do, and just getting rid of like the negative self-talk and the I can't, and like just getting that out of your vocabulary and practicing something completely new and different and joyful, I guess.
It was her that got me into this 30-day exercise challenge. So it's like I'm posting on my story, and I was just like, well, I'm on day 16, so 14 days ago, I just posting every day. It's me exercising again.
Is it sweat every day for 30 minutes? Yeah.
Yes. And I was just like, how did I get, like, I just said, yeah, I'll do that. And then I'm like, as soon as I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And I'm like, what did I just wrote myself into?
So I'll tell you something funny really quick. So we were having our team call with Danelle and her team, and we're working on identifying like, what's the true passion, what is worth doing anything for. And so we're like picking these things, and then she's like, well, what do you have to like what's getting in the way? What do you have to eliminate? She calls it like an elimination diet for your life, like whether it's social media or email or whatever. And I said, Well, I think I'll stop. I'm not a big drinker Monday through Friday, but I'm like, I'm gonna stop drinking, on weeknights. Like I only reserve drinking for like Friday, Saturday, maybe Sunday. and she goes, Crystal, I challenge you not to drink at all for 30 days. And I'm like, oh, okay, done. So I finished my 30 days just a few days ago. But I feel you when it comes to her pressure. She's like, prove to yourself that you could do that for 30 days. And I was like, okay.
I actually stopped drinking. I think it was back in March. It was kind of not a particular like decision that I made. I just didn't have a drink one night and I was just like, and I haven't drank since. And my husband, he was like, he stopped as of January 1st. He's like, he's not drinking this year. And I was like, I'm not buying into that. Forget it. But then when March came, I was just kind of like, I don't need to have a drink. And I just haven't since. And I said to my kids today, I'm like, what do you think if mom and dad just didn't drink anymore? Because I've kind of got to that point where I'm like, I kind of like not drinking. It's weird. I never would have done it intentionally, but where I am, it's just like, interesting.
So it's funny.
We don't really drink.
That's good.
I stopped drinking like on a full-time basis, like a banker. So every night, happy hour, networking, all real estate, all the stuff, right? You think that like that's what you have to do, but I did a bodybuilding competition and I had to stop drinking for over a year because I did 2 of them, so like a year and a half. And I've had drinks obviously since then, but yeah, I probably drink like twice a year. I don't feel the need to drink anymore. It's so much better for us as entrepreneurs, honestly. And the construction industry has enough drinking as it is.
It's true.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Yeah, you do realize like that you just feel better, especially when you reflect on it every day and you're like, wow, like I don't feel like crap. Or like I don't feel tired, at night when you're out with your friends, like, as I've gotten older, I just noticed that like when I drink, I have to be in bed by like 8 o'clock because I'm like so tired. It just drains me. So I totally get you. For the first week, I was like subbing it with mocktails. And I'm like, this completely defeats the purpose of why I even started doing this. The point was to really focus on my health.
Mhm.
It wasn't necessarily like to stop drinking, but to really focus on my health. And I'm like, well, by subbing this with something else, I'm not focusing on the goals. So then I started focusing on drinking more water and things like that. But it's amazing when someone says something like that to you, like prove it to yourself what you can do with that.
Yeah, it's powerful. It's powerful. Did anybody else have any other question that you wanted to ask Crystal?
Thank you. This is really great.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. This was very helpful. And I did send you a text message so we can set up a call.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, thank you guys for having me on and listening to me. I know I need to work on slowing down and talking a little bit less quickly, but I'm working on it. So yeah, I just appreciate you guys taking the time to listen and asking good questions, and I'm happy to talk to anyone, one-off, and feel free. If you guys know any other women in construction or just any other women in business that want to meet us and learn more about the financial side of things, like I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone.
Awesome.
Well,
If
thank you.
one of our, if real quick, you said women in business. So if one of our clients that we're doing a construction project for is a woman-owned business, and they might need like additional construction lending resources, would that be an okay person to introduce to you guys, or would it not, since it's like construction related?
No, so I work with all industries.
Okay.
All industries, and so women in business representative, going back to that, like I talk to all of Courtney's incoming leads from speaking. All of the women that she works with, those are the clients I work with. So when I say like women in business representative, we love supporting women, but Courtney and I are really the only women on the working directly with the clients. So I work with all of her leads, all of the women that she works with that are writing books and things like that. So, but also like if you guys know anyone else that needs help, even if they are male, that is okay. Yeah.
Good
So
to
I'm the
know.
yeah. And any industry, any business, we do several industries, even the cannabis industry now. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing all that you have to share. We really appreciate it. And I expect that there'll be some good connections for you.
absolutely. Yep. I look forward to talking with all of you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
everybody
you.
for being here,
Mhm.
and we'll see you again soon.
Bye, ladies.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.